People say I'm a traitor, a cruel mother, a thief. But what if I told you I was only reclaiming what should have been mine? I can sense your disgust. It's evident in the judge's stern expression, in the murmurs that sweep through the courtroom when I enter, in the bold newspaper headlines that paint me as a criminal. They claim I robbed my own flesh and blood, that I failed as a mother. But do you truly understand who I am? Have you taken the time to hear my version of events? Here I am today, facing my daughter whom I nurtured for more than 2 decades. Alberta stands before me, her eyes distant, devoid of the affection she once showed when seeking comfort from nightmares. Now, she's become unrecognizable, someone willing to pursue legal action against her own mother. Will the defendant, Bernice Mitchell, make any statement before the verdict is announced? I let out a quiet laugh, raising my head. Defendant? How ironic. Poverty wasn't my destiny. I refused to accept a life of mediocrity, caught in an endless cycle of unpaid bills, second-hand clothes, and shattered aspirations. I yearned for better, I earned better. I gave up everything to ensure Alberta lived comfortably. Yet, once she had it all, I became nothing more than an afterthought. My mother, Rose, always showed preference for Alberta. Upon her death, I was left with nothing. But Alberta, what did she receive? $800,000. A fortune that could have transformed my existence. And what became of it? She kept it all, never considering my needs or our family's welfare. I was simply safeguarding what should have been mine. I don't apologize for persuading Alberta to invest in the lakefront property, a space meant for the entire family's enjoyment. But she turned against me. She filed a lawsuit, treated me like a common criminal. She wanted me to suffer the consequences. But I posed this final question: who truly committed the betrayal here? Poverty wasn't my destiny. I distinctly recall my childhood, seated in the back of my mother's car, gazing through the window of that weathered vehicle, observing the magnificent homes that bordered the affluent neighborhoods. The spotless white picket fences, the meticulously maintained gardens, the luxury vehicles perfectly aligned in driveways. I pictured myself residing in such a home, throwing elegant gatherings, raising a crystal glass on the terrace, listening to ocean waves break nearby. I craved more than just a mundane existence. But my life took a different path than that vision. I grew up in a modest Texas town where women were conditioned to embrace contentment with their lot. Early marriages, motherhood, and simple living were the expected norms. My mother, Rose, epitomized this lifestyle, dedicating herself entirely to family care and household maintenance, finding peace in the mundane. But I harbored different aspirations. When Franklin entered my life, I saw him as my ticket to a grander existence. He spoke of ambitious plans, acquiring a spacious home, landing a reliable career, and relocating our family to greener pastures. I invested my faith in his promises, convinced we could transcend our circumstances. Reality, however, proved harsh and unforgiving. Franklin settled into a teaching position at the local high school, stable employment, yet insufficient to fulfill my desired lifestyle. As for me, I established a small bookstore, dreaming of expanding it into a successful franchise. But circumstances weren't kind. My days revolved around manning the cash register, meticulously tracking every penny to maintain operations. I remained hopeful for transformation, but it never materialized. I watched as my peers upgraded to luxurious homes, hosted extravagant celebrations, and shared exotic vacation photos online. Meanwhile, I recycled my wardrobe, scrutinized every purchase, and tried convincing myself that this was enough. Then Alberta's arrival changed everything. I thought motherhood would reshape my perspective, perhaps maternal instincts would overshadow my personal ambitions. But parenthood didn't eliminate financial struggles or simplify life. Despite my deep love for Alberta, her presence intensified our challenges. Countless nights I lay awake beside a peacefully sleeping Franklin, obsessing over financial calculations. We perpetually fell short. Bills mounted endlessly, while dreams remained perpetually deferred. Bitterness began taking root. I observed Alberta's carefree childhood, unaware of my countless sacrifices. She lived sheltered from financial worries, never experiencing the suffocating grip of scarcity. The walls began closing in. My identity as Bernice, the ambitious dreamer, dissolved into mere roles: mother, wife, woman confined to an aging house. My reflection revealed someone I'd grown to loathe, a defeated, fragile soul imprisoned by her own choices. Yet my aspirations refused to die. I still yearned for more: sophisticated residences, weekend soirees, exotic destinations I'd only glimpsed in glossy magazines. I longed to break free from penny pinching at stores, from denying myself life's beautiful indulgences due to price tags. I clung to the belief that eventually, everything would fall into place. My entire existence had been an exercise in familial sacrifice. Surely, I deserved something in return for my dedication. Alberta was never truly mine. I recognized it during her early years, though I persistently tried to dismiss the truth. I convinced myself that eventually, she would cherish me as deeply as she did Grandma Rose, that I too would become someone she looked up to and admired. But reality proved otherwise. Alberta belonged to my mother's heart, not mine. From day one, Rose lavished Alberta with attention and affection in ways I never experienced. During my childhood, I was expected to shoulder responsibilities, learn financial prudence, and understand life's harsh realities. But Alberta? She was treasured, celebrated, elevated above me, even in her earliest years. The family gatherings at my mother's residence remain etched in my memory. Rose showed no interest in my life, remained indifferent to my struggles, to how I fought desperately to keep my bookstore afloat. But Alberta commanded her complete attention. She hungered for details about her schooling, her thoughts, her aspirations. My precious Alberta, how was your day at school? Alberta, darling, spend the weekend here, I'll make your favorite treats. And I merely existed as a peripheral figure in their world. Once, I attempted to connect with my mother, tried making her understand my need for her support, my personal battles. Her response came laced with condescension and disapproval. Bernice, you're always wanting what's beyond your reach. When will contentment find you? Contentment? How could I find peace when emptiness consumed me? I began resenting my own child. Alberta possessed everything life had denied me. She lived unburdened by financial concerns, never experienced sleepless nights worrying about unpaid bills. Her life flowed effortlessly, joyfully, while I shouldered crushing responsibilities alone. The year Alberta secured her college scholarship confirmed my fears. She would never require my presence again. That evening remains vivid in my memory. Franklin and I sat in our living room, attempting to celebrate Alberta's achievement. I'd purchased a modest cake from the local store, the best within our means. Watching Alberta extinguish the candles, I noticed her distant gaze. Her mind wandered toward grander horizons, far beyond my limited world. The realization struck: I would forever remain peripheral in her journey. Then Rose departed this world. I remember my conflicted emotions that day. Grief? Yes, somewhat. But relief also surfaced. I foolishly hoped this might finally bring Alberta closer. How wrong I was. Learning that Rose had bequeathed everything to Alberta revealed that, even in death, she maintained her preference. $800,000. She left me with nothing. No inheritance, no farewell message, not even a small memento. But Alberta, she received it all. And she never once considered sharing. Not a single gesture of support, not one inquiry about my needs or well-being. She clutched it all close, as though I were invisible. That evening, alone in my bedroom, I gazed at my mother's photograph hanging on the wall. Questions burned in my throat. Why did you do this to me? What terrible wrong did I commit? How did I earn such hatred from you? But the silent portrait offered no answers, and Alberta remained oblivious to my pain. In that moment, clarity struck. I needed to reclaim what should have rightfully been mine. I couldn't allow Alberta to retain all those funds. Not from a place of hatred. Not from a desire to witness her downfall. But where was the justice in the situation? For over 2 decades, I had been Alberta's pillar, sacrificing everything to ensure her comfort and security. Yet when my mother passed, $800,000 landed in her lap, as if I were a mere shadow. Sleep eluded me night after night. Should I initiate a conversation with Alberta? Should I request her assistance? Deep down, I already knew what would follow. She would refuse. She would explain how she planned to invest the money, secure her future, and remind me to be self-reliant. Her eyes would mirror my mother's judgmental stare, as if I were greedy, undeserving of even asking. But I did deserve to ask. I had silently carried this family's burdens. I had lived a life that wasn't my choice, all to secure Alberta's future. Now, as she reveled in opportunities one never had, what remained for me? A deteriorating house? A struggling bookstore? A husband who couldn't assert himself? No, this couldn't be my fate. That's when the lake house concept emerged. I had always yearned for such a sanctuary. A peaceful retreat far from mounting bills, suffocating debt, and the bustling city streets. I envisioned a home with a water view balcony where I could savor evening wines, host gatherings like my affluent friends. I had earned that. And Alberta would share in its benefits too. I contemplated my approach. Though stubborn, Alberta had one significant vulnerability: her self-image as a caring, family-oriented person. I patiently awaited the perfect opportunity. During a post-dinner conversation one evening, I casually mentioned some friends' recent lake house purchase. I spoke enthusiastically, painting pictures of elegant parties, candlelit outdoor dinners, and serene mornings beside tranquil waters. Alberta remained quiet but attentive. I knew it was time. Alberta, you possess substantial inheritance money. By investing together in a lakefront property, we could create a shared family sanctuary. It wouldn't be exclusively mine and your father's, you'd have equal ownership. Alberta paused, uncertainty flickering across her features. Then, predictably, she responded. I need some time to consider this. I maintained patience, recognizing the importance of guiding her gradually. Several days passed before I revisited the topic. This time, I appealed to her emotions. Alberta, consider what grandmother would have wanted for us. Her greatest wish was for our family's happiness and unity. Keeping the money in a bank account reduces it to mere numbers. But transforming it into a lake house creates something tangible, a space where our family bonds can flourish. I noticed Alberta's expression mellowing. Eventually, she conceded. We discovered the ideal property: 4 spacious bedrooms, a lakeside balcony, and a charming garden. The asking price fell comfortably within Alberta's financial means. I can still picture the day we finalized the paperwork. My smile radiated genuine joy as I envisioned future family dinners outdoors, peaceful morning coffee rituals, and lazy afternoon moments on the veranda. I was convinced everything would transform. I believed this opportunity would finally deliver what I'd longed for. However, I overlooked one crucial detail. Alberta continued to regard the property as exclusively hers. This was something I would absolutely not tolerate. I had assumed victory. I thought I had finally obtained what I rightfully deserved. The lake house materialized into reality. Those initial months transformed me, no longer confined to the cramped bookstore or surrounded by the familiar, weathered walls of my 2-decade-old residence. I finally claimed my own territory. I meticulously curated every corner, selecting furniture pieces that matched the aspirational images I'd admired in upscale home magazines. For the first time in years, I experienced genuine liberation. But Alberta's attitude shifted. Her initial enthusiasm for the property waned. Her visits became increasingly infrequent, and during those rare appearances, her gaze held something different, as if I had committed some transgression. Something wasn't right. Then came that pivotal day when Alberta summoned me to the living room. The memory remains crystal clear. The lake's surface was mirror smooth, a gentle breeze wafting through the balcony doors. Yet internally, I sensed an approaching tempest. Alberta's expression was stern, her tone glacial. Mom, we need to discuss the house situation. I stared, bewildered. This house? Everything was settled. Why raise concerns now? I want to propose transferring the property solely into my name. The room seemed to spin around me. Under her name exclusively? A bitter laugh escaped my throat. Alberta, what could you possibly mean? Alberta's response came with an air of casual indifference, as if her words carried no weight. Mom, you're aware that I purchased this house with my finances, correct? From a legal standpoint, I believe your name shouldn't appear on the property deed. My body turned to stone. This house represented everything to me. I had devoted my entire existence to securing it. I had orchestrated every detail to convince Alberta to invest, and now she intended to remove all traces of me? My composure shattered. What exactly are you suggesting? You want to deny me ownership of this house? After all I've sacrificed for you. Alberta maintained her collected demeanor, treating me like an unwelcome stranger desperately grasping at something beyond my reach. Mom, that's not my intention. But I believe I should have control over my investments. Her investments? Fury ignited within my chest. I had surrendered everything to raise Alberta, to ensure she lived a superior life. Now, she planned to strip away the single thing I had achieved after decades of sacrifice? I refused to allow it. Rising to my feet, I met her gaze directly. Listen carefully, Alberta. I shouldered this family's burdens for years. Would you have achieved your current success without my support? I gave you everything. This house isn't yours alone. It belongs to our family. Alberta's lips tightened. Doubt flickered momentarily in her eyes. Then, drawing a steady breath, she declared, I understand your perspective, but my mind is made up. Decision? She had decided? Never. I wouldn't permit it. I wouldn't let her seize my only achievement. Within weeks, I implemented my strategy. I convinced Franklin that Alberta shouldn't have sole ownership, that we needed to safeguard our interests, that modifying the documentation would benefit the entire family. Franklin, true to form, offered no resistance. He never challenged my decisions. And so, we proceeded with our plan. We altered the documentation. We transferred legal ownership to Franklin and myself. I experienced zero remorse. I did what any mother would to protect her family's interests. But I never anticipated Alberta discovering the truth. And she would never extend forgiveness. I never imagined my own daughter would pursue legal action against me. When the subpoena arrived, it felt like an invisible force had crushed my chest. Each impersonal line of Alberta's lawsuit pierced through me as I unfolded the document with trembling hands. But the emotion that surged through me wasn't fear, it was fury. Could she actually be serious? Was she truly prepared to destroy our family over property rights? I glanced at Franklin, desperate for any reaction. But there he sat, characteristically silent, his eyes fixed on the ground. Franklin, won't you say something, anything? He exhaled heavily. Bernice, perhaps we crossed a line. The word struck me like a physical blow. After everything I'd sacrificed for this family, even my own husband was prepared to desert me. But I refused to yield. The trial begins. Anxiety coursed through my veins as I entered the courtroom, though I fought to maintain my composure. The scene before me, sterile white walls, uncomfortable wooden seats, suffocating silence, felt surreal. Alberta sat with her attorney across the room, regarding me with the detached interest of a stranger viewing an unwanted spectacle. That realization wounded me deeper than anything else. The judge's gavel crashed down, initiating the proceedings. Her words echoed through the chamber, each syllable slicing into my consciousness. The plaintiff, Ms. Alberta Mitchell, brings charges of fraud, forgery, and unlawful misappropriation of property against the defendants, Bernice Mitchell and Franklin Mitchell. Fraud? Misappropriation? The absurdity nearly made me laugh. That house was rightfully mine. It belonged to my family. I'd merely claimed what was already mine. But as Alberta's attorney rose and began speaking, I realized my self-justifications were crumbling. He methodically presented the evidence, Alberta's signature on the original purchase contract, the manipulated legal papers, our unauthorized mortgage after transferring ownership. The wall seemed to close around me. I searched Alberta's face, silently pleading for eye contact, for any sign of hesitation. She remained unmoved. In that moment, I realized I'd lost my daughter forever. My turn to testify arrived. Despite rehearsing with my lawyer, certain actions proved impossible to justify. Yes, I'd altered the documents. Yes, I'd secured a loan against the property without Alberta's knowledge. I'd done what any mother would to protect her rightful property. But legally, I had committed a violation. The judge examined the evidence, her penetrating gaze boring into me. Then, raising her head, she spoke with unwavering authority. "Mrs. Mitchell, did you knowingly alter the property documents without consulting your daughter?" I yawned to deny it. I wanted to explain that this was all just a terrible misunderstanding, that my actions were driven by maternal instinct to safeguard our family's interests. But dishonesty wasn't an option. Taking a deep breath, I responded with measured words. "Yes, Your Honor. I acted on what I believed was right for my family." Her face remained impassive. No hint of mercy. No trace of empathy. I was no longer viewed as a mother fighting for her family's welfare. I was merely a criminal facing judgment. The verdict. The judge's gavel descended with devastating finality, her voice resonating through the courtroom. "This court hereby orders the complete transfer of Lake House ownership to Ms. Alberta Mitchell. All existing mortgage obligations incurred by the defendants, Bernice Mitchell and Franklin Mitchell, shall remain their responsibility. Additionally, this matter will be forwarded to the district attorney's office for review of potential criminal fraud charges." I felt suffocated. I looked toward Alberta, desperately searching for any sign, even the smallest indication, of remorse or understanding. But she remained motionless, stoic, unmoved, as if she had anticipated this outcome all along. Next to me, Franklin's shoulders slumped, accepting this as our downfall. We had lost everything. The property, our savings, our child. Yet the deepest wound wasn't the loss of material possessions. It was knowing that my flesh and blood had deliberately orchestrated our demise. Everything was gone. The lake house, our dream, belonged to another. Post-verdict, we received 48 hours to evacuate. No appeals, no mercy. After dedicating my entire existence to securing that property, I could only watch helplessly as it was wrenched away. Franklin drove us to our former residence, but I couldn't step inside. I remained paralyzed in the passenger seat, observing the aging facade. It appeared more diminished than ever, more dilapidated than in my recollection. How could I return after having glimpsed paradise? It was impossible. The subsequent weeks unfolded like a torturous dream. I witnessed Alberta flaunting her new acquisition online, sharing snapshots from the lakeside balcony, the very spot meant for my sunset views. Lavish gatherings were hosted, congratulatory messages poured in. "Well done, Alberta. What a stunning property. Finally, your perfect retreat. You've earned this." Earned? My grip tightened on my phone as rage surged through me. They were ignorant of reality. None understood my sacrifices for that house. None knew how Alberta had ruthlessly stripped everything away. But as I scrolled through her social media updates, examining each post meticulously, something caught my attention. Alberta's happiness seemed forced. Her smiles appeared rehearsed, lacking genuine joy. The gatherings she hosted were with acquaintances, not true friends I knew she cherished. Indoor photographs became scarce, replaced by snapshots of exotic getaways and upscale dining experiences, almost as if the house itself made her uncomfortable. Something felt amiss. I felt compelled to visit the lake house one final time. Not to reclaim it, that was beyond possibility now. But I needed to witness firsthand if Alberta truly found joy in her supposed triumph. I parked along the roadside, observing the property from afar. Its beauty remained unchanged, but peering through the windows revealed a hollow space. No comfort, no familial warmth. Just an exquisite structure with no heart. Strangely, I felt at peace. Perhaps Alberta had secured her legal victory. She could claim the title of winner. But did she truly feel victorious? I departed without lingering regrets. I had lost it all. But Alberta's perceived victory brought her no real satisfaction. So ultimately, who truly prevailed? I lost everything tangible, the property, finances, the daughter I'd devoted my life to. But Alberta? She possessed the lake house now. She could enjoy the waterfront view from above. She could host social gatherings. But was she genuinely content? Perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't losing what you fought to keep, but discovering that your heart's desire brought no true fulfillment. Wealth can purchase property, but it cannot buy belonging. You might win a legal battle, but losing family makes it a hollow victory. The deepest wounds aren't inflicted by adversaries. They come from those closest to our hearts. What are your thoughts on this narrative? Was I deserving of this fate? Was I truly an unfit mother, or simply someone protecting what was mine? Do you believe Alberta truly won? Or did she become another solitary figure in an ill-gotten house? If you faced my situation, what path would you choose? Would you have surrendered immediately, or would you have persisted until the end defending your rights? Like, if family betrayal resonates with your experience, comment with your perspective. I value your input. Subscribe for more raw, emotional, and challenging real-life stories. Let's explore. Where do you stand in this? Do you empathize with my story, a mother fighting for what she believed was right? Or do you side with Alberta, who gained legal victory but lost something deeper? Share your thoughts below. I'm eager to read them.